Hello, our dear viewers, and welcome to a new edition of our program Africa Today. And President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi on Tuesday received the presidents and representatives of the African State Councils and the Supreme Administrative Courts who are in Egypt to participate in the establishment of the Union of State Councils and African Supreme Courts. More details follow.
El-Sisi on Tuesday told heads of African state councils and supreme administrative courts in Egypt to establish a union of the judicial institutions that would help spread legal awareness and push African action. Egypt celebrated yesterday the State Council's Diamond Jubilee, a date that would also mark Egypt celebrated yesterday the State Council Diamond Jubilee, a day that would also mark the founding of the African State Councils and Supreme Administrative Courts Union. President Abdel Fattah el-Sisi said that Egypt supports the independence of the judiciary, emphasizing that administrative judiciary secures public rights and freedoms. For his part, Minister of Justice Omar Marwan said the union would encourage exchange of expertise and legal research on African communities. Meanwhile, the African judges discussed several topics in the continent with President el-Sisi, including terrorism. They agreed on the judiciary role in coordinating a unified, coherent legislative environment to advance African communities and help them deal with international challenges and formulate a common future for the continent.
The European Union Ambassador to Cairo, Christian Berger, said on Tuesday that the Union supports Egypt to become a major hub of energy in the Middle East, North Africa and the Mediterranean, given its diverse energy resources. Berger noted that the cooperation between Egypt and the Union in the energy sector is good, showcasing that the EU is an observer at the East Mediterranean Gas Forum. More details in the following story.
Ambassador to Cairo, Christian Berger, told state-owned news agency MENA on Tuesday that the Union supports Egypt to become a major hub of energy in the Middle East, North Africa and Mediterranean, given its diverse energy resources. Berger noted that cooperation between Egypt and the Union in the energy sector is good, showcasing that EU is an observer at the East Mediterranean Gas Forum. The European diplomat pointed out that the gas exports to Europe is a salient matter in light of the continent's endeavors to diversify the sources of gas supply to its territories. The envoy explained that Egypt and Cyprus will become quite significant in the framework, disclosing the presence of ongoing negotiations between Egypt and member states on the front. The ambassador added also that EU is also particularly interested in solar energy and green hydrogen. Further, he stipulated that the concept of the energy efficiency is essential to combating climate change. Berger showcased in his speech at the 2022 International Conference on Energy, Power and Energy Chemistry EPEC 2022 the cooperation between EU and Egypt in the oil and gas sector. Such partnership is focused on capacity building and merging EU grants with loans provided by European financial institutions to fund infrastructure projects in this sector.
Our dear viewers, President el-Sisi on Tuesday met the visiting presidents and representatives of the African State Councils and the Supreme Administrative Courts who are in Egypt to participate in the establishment of the Union of State Council and African Supreme Courts. To shed more light on that, we are very much delighted to be joined over the phone by Dr. Mu'taz Abu Zaid, our Professor of Law. Good afternoon to you, Dr. Abu Zaid.
Good afternoon.
Hello, sir. Dr. Abu Zaid, how do you see here the importance of the Union of State Council and African Supreme Courts and what its tasks and importance are from your point of view?
Yes, of course, this meeting or this conference reflects a very great importance for the Egyptian judiciary system and of course for the African judiciary system as well. As we all know, the administrative judgment is one of the main basics of the judicial power here in Egypt. And of course, according to the presidency of Egypt for the African Union for many years, It returns back its pioneer role for guiding these judicial systems in African countries. And of course, according to the administrative judgments, they are constructive judgments. That means that they are putting their principles and they are issuing their rules, regardless these cases have laws or not. So these principles must be in harmony and must be compatible with each other in all African countries.
Yes. Dr. Abu Zaid, how can we coordinate cooperation in the judiciary between Egypt and its fellow countries in Africa to be more beneficial?
Of course, holding this conference is a very great step because it will open a great gate for this cooperation, and it will may suggest many ways of cooperation, like exchanging experiences between Egyptian judges and African ones, and also to spread the knowledge and the experience of the Egyptian State Council, which was established since 75 years in 1947, and of course it is the celebration of having 75 years. It is current now, and it's preparing now for this ceremony. This means that we have a very great history and legacy to share with African countries about our progress in judicial systems, especially the administrative one.
Yes. In what way can this cooperation help in fighting terrorism, corruption, as well as the organized crimes?
Yes, of course, this comment is very good because, as we know, the administrative judgment is the competent judicial branch dealing with the cases of government, and of course, all the governmental activities and all administrative activities is supervised and reviewed by state councils and administrative judges. And of course, according to the principles and judgments declared and announced in these sentences, it will guide the administrative branch or the administrative sector or the government in every country to be to respect these judgments and to make a better performance to apply these activities far away from any corruption or any misleading or away from good governance.
Yeah. Minister of Justice Omar Marwan urged the African countries to establish the union and highlighted its importance in many areas. Why is this union important, and how can it strengthen the exchange of expertise in areas of administrative justice among the different African states, sir?
Of course, the administrative judgment as a sector in the judicial power reflects a certain contribution or a certain evolution to have this sector in the judicial system, because not every country in the world have its judicial branch for administrative judgment. So to have this sector or to have this branch in your judicial system is really a good step. Another point that similar countries or similar judicial systems or similar legal systems which has this branch must cooperate, because we have already very successful examples before, like the unions or the conferences of these administrative judicial branches in Latin America, in Europe, and of course according to the Arab region. And I think that it will be a successful experience when we can try this with judicial administrative judicial branch in African countries.
Sir, actually many African leaders denounce world bodies like the ICC of being biased against the Africans. Can such judicial cooperation replace these organizations in the future?
Yes, of course, this will be completed by the union of the administrative judicial branch, because administrative judgments not only an administrative sector for judgments, but I think it has a very great political face, of course, because its judgments and its sentences, decisions may draw maps for the plans and for the performance and contributions of the government, new strategies that may be held by the government. And of course, this will help to have exchanging experiences between all administrative judicial branches in this country, and to have more knowledge about successful experiences for the cooperation between government and administrative judicial branch.
Yes. Dr. Abu Zaid, the conference is also discussing the protection of human rights. Would you please give us more insight on this file, which is taking a great highlight here from the administration?
Yes, of course, the State Council or the Administrative Judiciary branch is a competent branch mainly for the cases and the claims of human rights and the freedoms of individuals. Of course, as it was declared while establishing of the State Council in 1947, that it will be the shield for the freedom and rights of Egyptian people. And of course, during all this long journey, State Council announced and produced many decisions and many remarkable sentences about freedoms like freedoms related to health insurance, related to traveling, related to education, and all the rights and the freedoms mentioned in our constitution. So it's related not only to the administrative activity of the government, but it also protects the rights and the freedoms of people, because it's the competent branch of the judicial system to review and to discuss these cases.
Yes. Sir, how can this gathering help in enhancing cooperation and relations with fellow African nations?
According to the state that we have common background with all African countries, that we are all maybe developing countries, or we are mainly suffering similar problems, or facing similar problems like terrorism, like employment, like economic development. This can make a common background for each of us to produce a certain way of cooperation according to saving rights and the freedoms for people, union to make a new strategy or a new plan for cooperation with government, and of course to put a roadmap for these governments to be far away from corruption, as we say, from bias or something like this. So this conference will put these points to be performed or to be considered by governments or by countries. And of course, the auspices and the coordination of our presidency and the attendance of our President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi in this conference, of course, this will give a great weight for this event and a great respect to be performed or to be considered afterwards.
Indeed. Finally, sir, how do you wish the future cooperation to be among the different African nations regarding these files, and what challenges here we can overcome by holding such conferences?
Of course, our judicial branch here in Egypt, as I said, had a very long journey and very long history of remarkable announcements and judgments. And of course, this must be invested to give a new push for Egypt in its foreign relations, and especially according to cooperation with another judicial system. So that must be invested to give a new image about Egypt, to give a new soft power for this new republic, and to indicate that we have a great history in our judicial branch, so we can exchange and we can cooperate with this knowledge with each other. And of course, the African countries are ready for this cooperation, and they are willing to make a good contribution with this cooperation.
Indeed, Dr. Mu'attaz Abu Zaid, Professor of Law, thank you very much, sir, for being with us today and for your precious input. It was a real pleasure. Our dear viewers will go to a short break, and after that we'll be back with a future story, so stay tuned with Africa Today.
نحن لدينا مصير مشترك.
مصر تسلمت الرئاسة الدورية للاتحاد الإفريقي لعام 2019، وتتطلع كعادتها دوما للتعبير عن شواغل الشعوب الإفريقية الشقيقة الرامية لتحقيق الاستقرار والتقدم ودفع عجلة التنمية قدما. إذا كنتم ترغبون في تغيير وجه القارة الأفريقية، فالاتحاد الإفريقي كقيادة تستطيع أن تعمل وتدرس بشكل مركزي لمشروع عملاق لبناء بنية أساسية على مستوى القارة. أنا أتصور إن الأمن والاستقرار استثمار. إذا لم تستقر هذه القارة والأمن فيها بمعدلاته عالية، هذا الأمر سينعكس بالسلب علينا كلنا.
Before we wrap up today's edition of Africa Today, we will have a look at this feature story from the Sudanese capital, Khartoum, about wild birds habitat where visitors can see more than 100 rare species. More details in the following story.
Tucked away east of Sudan's capital, Khartoum, a sanctuary of lush green vegetation has been a heaven for dozens of exotic birds from far and wide. Birds feeding off human hands. The Marshall Nature Reserve gives a different glimpse of the Sudanese capital. It's a heaven of peace and tranquility. Nested east of Khartoum, this sanctuary of the lush green vegetation was set up 4 years ago by Sudanese bird lover Akram Yahya. In the natural reserve, visitors can behold over 100 birds of 13 species, like the African grey parrot and the red parrots, across branches and compete over the bird houses. The natural sanctuary that used to be Akram Yahya's front yard also shelters the garden pond and mist nozzles for cooling off against the heat. All of this to great joy of visitors coming from Sudan and beyond to admire the unique scenery. Visitors are welcomed only during 2 or 3 hours per day to avoid disturbing the animals.
Well, with that, our dear viewers, we come to the end of this edition of Africa Today. Hope you have enjoyed it until next week with another crew. It's goodbye. Many thanks for watching.